Welcome to Film Strip. These podcasts are spoiler-filled as we discuss the plots, characters, and themes of the films in review. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.
Welcome to 00 Film Strip, where I, Jay, your co-host, Film Strip, along with a guest, explore a single entry from each of the eras of James Bond. And today we're here to talk about Skyfall with our good friend Matt Bledsoe. We'll talk to Matt in a minute. Of course, featuring Daniel Craig as James Bond 007, Javier Bardem as Raul Silva, Ray Fiennes as Gareth Mallory, Naomi Harris as Moneypenny, Bernard Mallory as Severin, Ben Winshaw as Q, Ola Rapace as Patrice, Albert Finney as Kincaid, and Dame Judi Dench as M. Directed by Sam Mendes, released in 2012, made over $1 billion at the box office, scooped up an Academy Award for Adele, got noticed for a lot of things. But again, here to do this is Matt Bledsoe of the excellent Film Feast podcast. I know Film Feast is retired, but it's still an excellent podcast with a great catalog to go through. So Matt, thank you for coming back on the show. You were on our Blade episode a couple of years back.
Yes. Well, Jay, thank you for having me back. It's good to talk to you again. Excited to be here. Yes, kind of a semi-retired podcaster for my own show, but love getting to do guest spots like this. So I'm excited to talk James Bond with you. It should be good.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a blast doing 00 Film Strip with all you guys, and I look forward to having everybody on for the round table at the end when it's all done. But we've got to do the Craig era. We're finally here. So I just wanted to get, first off, like we've done on these things, your background with Bond, what your first Bond movie was, and then who you personally consider your James Bond.
Okay, so this is funny because I think when you pitched this to me, I tried to pick Pierce Brosnan because he was my guy. GoldenEye came out in 95.
Mm-hmm.
I was 8, so kind of like the perfect age for a boy to be getting into Bond, especially a kid like me who was already watching like rated R action movie. So
I had the same growing up you did, just 10 years before. So,
so yeah, GoldenEye and that game, that N64 game, was
I can't touch that.
Massive. Yeah. Like that for all my friends. It was like it was massive. It was like we were all like Bond heads all of a sudden. It was like ridiculous. Like I remember having a group of friends who we started renting old Bond movies in the video store because we were just so like we got into James Bond movies and we're like going back and and renting the old ones and the Connery and Roger Moore and all that. And so yeah, I mean I was full in from Pierce Brosnan. So he was my entry point. I would say he's my favorite Bond. He's my Bond. No beef. I know who took him. I'll have a word with him. But no, I was like, but he's just my guy. I feel like he's like, to me, I saw him first, so he kind of imprinted on me as Bond, but like I always liked that his Bond was he felt like he was capable of action. He was tough, but he was also very suave, and he could do the funny stuff, but it was not like super jokey like to me Roger Moore can be in it. Mm-hmm. And he just looks like Bond. It's my mind. I'm sure it's just because it was a young age and he was my first Bond, but But yeah, that was my entry point. Was GoldenEye was like felt massive at the time. It was like a return for that. They were off for like 6 years at that point, which is a gap for him then. So it's like a restart. So yeah, I was fully into Bond from that point on.
Oh, that's awesome. No, look, I always love hearing people's entry point on Bond and what it was. I've told mine several times here, so I won't retell it here. It's on the previous shows, but I think that's great. And GoldenEye is one of those that again it just works, man. It just still holds up. And you said all the things about Brosnan that are right. But when Daniel Craig got announced as Bond, I didn't know him. I'll be honest. I knew he had been in movies that I had seen. Munich is probably the one that most everybody can point to. And then I went back and saw Layer Cake when he got cast because everybody talked about how good it was. And I actually did find that to be a lot of fun, sort of in the same vein as like Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. And it's almost like a precursor to the Knives Out stuff that he's doing now. And I've come to appreciate Daniel Craig as a Bond because maybe outside of Connery, he has like the actual film oeuvre of having done a lot of stuff. He's been in horror movies, he's been in action movies, he's been in dramas, he's been in comedies, and he just kind of does it, and it's, I don't know, there's just something interesting about it. But again, when they cast him as Bond, I remember, like, the internet's always had an outrage, right? But it was like, oh no, not James Blonde, and I was like, I don't know, is it that big of, who cares? And I went and saw Casino Royale and fell in love with it. And Lindsay and I talked about that in a long ago archive show here on Film Strip. And so won't relive that. But yeah, I remember when I saw him, I was like, okay, I'm really intrigued by this guy and what he's going to do. And then I saw Quantum of Solace, and I gave that movie a big pass because I knew it got made without a script and without anybody there to help it. And I gave it a pass also for being like the first true sequel as a Bond. I don't know if that's exactly true, by the way, but it plays like that. And so he lived on. And then when Skyfall came around, the hype for this was so huge. And I just remember going like, okay, can this possibly live up to that? And I will, we'll get into it as we get into it. But I remember when Craig got cast and all that, it was just such a big deal. And the thing I think I'll always associate him with when it comes to Bond movies is that I felt like he restored this real steely intensity to it that Brosnan had shades of. The World Is Not Enough is a pretty mean movie. It's also a pretty bad one, but it's pretty mean, and he's pretty rough in it. He blasts Sophie Marceau from point blank in that movie, so that's pretty hard. But that was something like Connery would do, And I thought, okay, this is an interesting mix of things. So that's kind of my take on Daniel Craig as Bond. But what about you? What did you think? What do you remember about when Craig got cast as Bond?
It's so funny because I feel like '06, like I said, I was all in on Bond, but then I felt like by that time, I was kind of not. I was slowly getting out of movies. Like a weird time in my life. I'd started college, but I had left college, was bouncing around, doing stuff, and I felt like I just wasn't paying as much attention to movies anymore. But I feel like I was still, embarrassingly to admit, still like on sites like ain'titcoolnews.com.
Oh yeah. Couldn't miss those, like, man. So.
I know now it's like you look back like, oh, but at the time I was getting a lot of news from there.
Well, that's where you got it though. But back in those days, particularly because Robert Cargill is a whale of a reporter and now a great screenwriter and author.
Oh yeah,
but he did incredible work on that site, in spite of the idiots he had to work with.
I liked it that time, and there weren't as many places I know to get your movie news. So,
like Boom and Spill, and that was kind of it.
I feel like I remember some outrage about him being Bond, but to me he was like a blank slate. I had no notions of him. I didn't know who he was. I was like, I don't know who this guy is. Wasn't there like a photo they released and they like re-released it and they had like darkened it up or something?
Yeah, like they tried to shade it a little bit, but you can't darken this guy up. Yeah. I liken it to the way when Henry Cavill was cast as Superman. I was like, I knew who that was, but looks like Superman to me. You saw the movie. So.
I think I remember thinking about Craig like, well, he doesn't look like what I imagined Bond to look like, but I'm not outraged because I don't know who he is. So, and then here's the crazy thing. I didn't see Casino Royale in a theater. I didn't see Quantum of Solace in a theater. I don't know why. I cannot tell you why, because it seems like things I would have seen in a theater because they were like big event movies. And I was still seeing like big stuff with friends. Don't know how I missed them. Caught them on DVD probably right when they came out though. Really Casino Royale blew me away right away. I was like, oh, this guy's great. I was like, this is a different take on Bond than I've ever seen anybody do. Like he's doing his own thing. Because he feels very different than any other Bond to me. Like they're all different in their own ways, but he just feels like he's in a different, I don't know. He's like on a different island by himself, Well, and yeah.
And and I think it's fair to say like, Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson wanted to go in a different direction.
Yes.
After the Brosnan era, and it took them a long time to get it together, but they were definitely influenced by the fact that Christopher Nolan had changed the game when it came to these things with Batman Begins, and I know these were in production around the same time, but they were aware of what that was going to be, and I think they wanted to do a more serious take. I liken a lot of the early 2000s and into the 2010s is very much like and we're still in it in some ways, even in the 20s here, of like the 70s era of film, when it came to like the gritty action film is, we had these almost anti-heroes, if you will, as the lead members of the cast. And you got dark, flawed people against smart, interesting villains, you know, and I think they realized that the best Bond movies had three elements going at the same time. You had a really smart Bond who was tough and could get in and out of any situation, but he didn't know everything. So there was that piece. So how do we reset that? We kind of put the dial all the way back. We have a really smart, engaging actor to play the villain. And then you've got to put a love interest slash Bond girl opposite of Bond who can carry weight as well. And they figured out, well, you know, the story we let get away from us years ago was Casino Royale, and it was turned into this like goofy TV comedy, you know. So let's roll that one back. It's a great story.
Yeah.
It's not so much the world's going to get nuked as it is basically the mob's money launderer loses all their money and now he has to try to win it back, and we're going to screw him because that'll screw them, you know. And I was like, okay, I mean that plays in the 2000s. Financial crimes were definitely a part of our lives, Enron, you know, and all that stuff. So okay, we get all of that, and we've got to find someone that can play intense, but vulnerable. And that's the one thing I'll give Daniel Craig is no matter what role he is, he always has this air of vulnerability. And part of it is he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's not small, but he's not the biggest dude in the world. But he can be completely outmatched, but he never looks like he's lost, even when he is, you know. And I think that's the fun part of it. So I was intrigued by it, you know, and again, I saw Casino Royale and Quantum in theaters because Bond movies are just kind of thing for me. And so when this was coming around, I was pumped for it, you know. And I again, when I went and saw it in theaters, I walked out with a very distinct impression about it. And then I saw it again, and I think I convinced my dad to go see it or something like that. And because he's a big, you know, he's my Bond entry in a lot of ways. And he liked it. I mean, he's a lot older, so I don't think it totally played for him the way that it did me. But because I don't think he's ever seen the Batman, you know, stuff or any of that other thing. But I got him to watch another movie that I feel like this one borrows a lot from, and I'll talk about that in a bit. And it opened it up for him a little bit more. So that was kind of a fun thing to do. But I think before we get any further, I should do like our 10,000 foot plot summary that we've been doing on these, and then we can get into our discussion points, you know, all the stuff that makes these things. So this film starts with a high-octane chase through Istanbul as James Bond and Eve Moneypenny pursue a mercenary who has a stolen hard drive containing the identities of undercover agents. And if that sounds like a lot of Mission Impossible movies, you're not wrong. During the pursuit, Bond is shot by Moneypenny, who was aiming for the mercenary after she was told to take the shot by him, and he falls into a river, presumed dead, as the bell sings him into the afterlife. Wouldn't we all be so lucky? 3 months later, MI6 headquarters are attacked, bombed, as it were, and M, Bond's superior, is targeted by a mysterious assailant. Haunted by the attack and facing pressure to retire, M defies orders and reconnects with Bond and sends him on a rogue mission to recover the stolen hard drive, in spite of the fact that he is completely unfit for service. Bond, using his presumed death as an opportunity to more or less disappear, returns and gets on this globetrotting adventure that takes him from Shanghai to Macau. He encounters a seductive woman named Severine, who leads him to her employer, a man named Silva, who's a former MI6 agent seeking revenge on M for betraying him. Silva, brilliant but twisted cyber terrorist, among other things, unleashes a devastating attack on MI6, forces the organization to relocate. He then targets M personally, leading to a deadly confrontation at Skyfall, which is Bond's childhood home in the Scottish Highlands. Silva, driven by the deep-seated resentment towards M, intends on killing her and destroying everything she holds dear, and Bond is just sort of there for, you know, icing on the cake. But after a lot of encounters, Bond battles Silva and his men. He utilizes his skills and ingenuity to defend her and protect Skyfall, in spite of the fact that it gets burned to the ground like the Peanuts cartoon in the chateau that's on fire, which I will never have out of my head. Silva ultimately corners her in a nearby chapel, and as he is trying to get her to shoot him and her at the same time, Bond comes in, stabs him in the back, and of course, Silva dies. However, M comes to her injury shortly thereafter, leaving Bond and the entire MI6 reeling from the loss. The film concludes, though, with a poignant funeral for M, and realizing that Gareth Mallory, a man who was sent to oversee M, is now the new M and is ready for Bond to get back to work. So a lot going on in this movie. We'll get into all of it here, Matt. But that kind of gets us through point A to point B. And I teased it a minute ago, so I'm just going to say this. I've had this pet theory for years, and I want to see what you think of it. I feel like this movie is the third iteration of a type of movie in a story. And follow me through this lineage here. I feel like Heat, the Michael Mann film, begat a lot of The Dark Knight because Christopher Nolan said he was doing that. And I feel like The Dark Knight and Heat begat Skyfall in a lot of ways because you could have a heck of a schlock and all trilogy connecting those three. A shout out to our friend Lindsay Wilkins.
I had not thought about the Dark Knight theory till recently. I was reading like letterbox reviews of Skyfall, and I was like, oh God, I guess they were kind of influenced by Dark Knight. It just because in Silva's kind of Joker-esque with causing chaos and it's just the themes and the tone. I was like, yeah, I didn't think of it, but that is, I mean, I see the Heat, I see the Dark Knight influence. Definitely. Yeah.
There's one scene they all share in common, and it's where your lead hero and your villain sit and have a conversation in front of each other. Heat is the coffee scene, which everybody talks about. It's a great piece of cinema. And then in Dark Knight, it's that incredible interrogation scene. May not have been a very better interrogation scene. You don't hit the suspect, they get all fuzzy. I mean, but the best part of that is when Ledger's like, don't act like them, you're not. I love it's God. Academy Award winner. Anyway, too soon. And then in this one, it's what makes you think it's my first time? With Bond and Silva facing off in that that warehouse of computers, which I work in a place with a lot of computers, stuff like that. So I was always impressed with that they let that room have air to breathe because that many servers would like totally set on fire if they weren't. But you need a lot of air conditioning in that church. But anyway, but I feel like that's a connective tissue is that. It's a villain who's the opposite side of the hero,
Is it two sides of the same coin type of scenario?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because Macaulay
and a little different in their path, they could be the other guy type. I mean, very close in Bond. I mean, with them both being agents, and one goes one way, one goes the other way. One's like Bond is just forever loyal to England, and then Silva's like, no, I'm gonna burn this all down now, and Yeah, I know that's a really I like that because I mean I love all those movies, so all that checks out too.
Yeah, I mean I think anyway, and what's funny about that is like I've loved Heat since I saw it in theaters. I've told this before. I told Phil Walsh this recently on his show. The first time I saw The Dark Knight, I hated it. I walked out of the theater and I was like, I hate this. And it was a good friend. It was Ron's wife, Holly, told me, said, no, you're missing it. You need to go back and watch this again and think of it as The Empire Strikes Back. And I said, oh. And so I went and watched it again. I was like, okay, now I get you. And then sometime later, I was like, this feels a lot like another movie I've seen, Heat. And then, that became a thing on the internet too. I don't think I originated that idea, obviously, but I agree with it. And then when I saw Skyfall, I was like, this feels a lot like The Dark Knight and Heat. I got together and had a James Bond movie as a kid.
Well, the Bond movies have always been a little bit reactive to things. I think in mostly positive ways. Like, Barbara Broccoli and Michael Wilson, they've been very good about pivoting.
Yeah, it's pretty forced.
And resetting, and sometimes things get away from them. Like I was gonna say earlier, we were talking about Bonds. I think Pierce Brosnan I thought he was a great Bond, but he was trapped in some not so great movies.
He got one good script. Yeah, he really did. So, like Tomorrow Never Dies is fun, but
I love GoldenEye. I like Tomorrow Never Dies. I even like World's Not Enough, and I do not really care for Die Another Day. But I think he could have been in better Bond movies, but I think he's a great Bond. Craig, I felt like they took extra care to put him in like really good movies, and I have problems with Quantum of Solace, but I know that movie got like just put through the ringer of production problems, so I kind of have a little bit of leeway on it. I guess I give a little room, but
I give it a pass because I know it was hell to get made. So
and I just feel like they put so much care into Craig's Bond movies. He gets a full arc. I mean, it's like that doesn't happen. It's like it's amazing. So they really put like an extra level of care, and let's do something different and give this Bond like a complete arc from start to finish, and influenced by very classy things. I feel like it's like they're going to make this like a higher level of entertainment. Like they're like, we want to be better. We want to be like Heat. We want to be like, no, I mean, I love all the Bond movies, but I felt like they were getting Roger Deakins involved.
Yeah.
Is like,
oh God. Yeah.
We want this to be, just next level, great, you know.
Well, I think they, like you said, they took great care with this one because, and now we know it is their last one, but they didn't know, if they were ever going to,
Right.
how much longer they could keep doing this. They wanted to hit 50 years, and this movie was 50 years, and that
Right.
was
Yeah.
such a big deal. We want to hit 50 with Bond, and so it was going to be a massive thing. And then again, they pulled out all the stops, and I'll tell you now, I'll play my hands. If they had never made another one after this, I would have been okay with it. I don't really
Yeah.
love Spectre. And
Yeah.
I've seen No Time to Die once, and I don't know that I'll ever go back to it again because it's a 3 hour, it's an hour and 50-minute movie shoved in a 3 hour movie, and that bugs me. But I feel like that's just the life that we're in. Bond movies always work best when they're with about 155 to about 210. Get the credits out, and that's what you need. And so, well, let's get into this one. The setup in the cold open here, as it were. I love it. He walks on the screen. He's pointing that gun, and because who Craig is at this point. I mean, when we first meet him in Casino Royale, he shoots a guy in a chair, so he's all about this gun. And that, I love that high stakes, high octane chase through Istanbul, and forgiving it that, again, it's borrowing the whole knock list thing that's been, again, a part of what, 6 of the 7 Mission Impossible movies or whatever, but that's
At
fine.
least half. I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
at least
I
half
mean,
of them.
but they're borrowing from that too. They're like, hey, yeah, that's something everybody will understand. We could do that. It seems like a reasonable thing. And I don't know, man, I love it. You got a motorcycle, you got trains, you got Bond and a lethal weapon. I guess it's 3 situation where they're shooting, through the heavy equipment,
Oh yeah.
with the cop killer, button, the bullets
It's
and stuff. And I mean, I'm like, we're borrowing from all the things, we're hitting all the hits, and the fact that Moneypenny shoots him and he rolls off the train, I was like, that. I mean, I remember distinctly, like, this is not how I thought my Bond adventure was going to begin, with him getting gagged off a train.
right. You're like, oh, okay, Bond's back 50 years. Oh, he's been shot before the theme song started and fell very far into the water. I forgot how great this opening was. I
Oh
really forgot
yeah,
how great the chase was. I've seen this movie a few times. I think the opening chase in Casino Royale, or no, the early chase in Casino Royale gets a lot of
yeah, the
attention. And it's
parkour,
great.
yeah.
The parkour, it's great. This is fantastic. And I to my naked eye, so much of this is done practically. Like guys
Yes.
on motorcycle. I mean, there's definitely some CGI in there here and there, but like
Yeah.
it looks like so much of this is like real stunt people doing a lot of this stuff, and it goes on for so long. Like, I mean, I love it. It's like it keeps going. It's like, and then we're on a train, and then oh my God, there's the construction equipment ripping the train apart. I think it's one of Craig's best Bond moments. It's just so Bond to me when he jumps. The train's falling apart. He runs up. He barely makes it in the train and adjusts his tie after he
Yeah.
hits the
It gets his suit
it's like,
right. Yeah.
gets the suit right. I'm like, that's just pure James Bond. And well, I forgot one of the rare times on screen that James Bond has been like seen getting shot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he had got shot before by the guy running away with the knock list.
But yeah,
And then he gets shot again. It's like, I was like, how many times have I seen Bond get shot? And I was like, I don't think Connery ever got shot. He got punched a few times. I don't
you know
think
what's
Moore ever got
shocking?
shot. Yeah.
I thought the same thing about Connery because De Palma tells this great story about Untouchables where they had to load up Connery with squibs and Connery hated it. And he's like, oh, he's never gotten shot. He was James Bond. They don't shoot.
Yeah.
But apparently, one of the only other times James Bond, maybe the only time got shot was in Thunderball. Apparently, he gets shot.
Oh, yeah, he does. He does. He gets like winged. You're right, about like a
So
harpoon
it's
or
like
something. Yeah.
probably not a squib situation, but he,
I owe our friend Carmelita an episode on Thunderball because we've talked about this, so
oh yeah.
we'll have to remember that when it comes around. But no,
Um,
no, I love the fact that though we open up with that vulnerability. I mean, it's a ton of adrenaline
Yeah.
right out of the gate, but then it bangs right into that moody ass song, and I credit the whole, like, all that action and the way it looks so good and stuff. That's all Roger Deakins and Sam Mendes, who are real filmmakers, and especially Sam
Yeah.
Mendes. He's going to do as much practical as he can, and then to jolt us into that Adele song, because Adele music is one thing. It comes hard and it hits you right in the feels, and the song, like, is more or less just, let's take the James Bond theme and slow it down with a piano and a timpani drum and just let this chick sing the hell out of it. And so it's not like, it's not this piece of music, to like be put up in the Louvre or something, but it's really effective for being moody and dramatic. And for a movie that is built on a lot of action, because this movie's going to have a ton of action in it, having a moody, dramatic, like, not, oh, James Bond's the greatest thing ever. I love him forever song, but more like everything sucks and we're going to hell is the song. And I'm like, man, this is not, it's not what you expect. And I love that they keep running all of the previous two movies, all of the stuff that this Bond has seen.
Oh yeah.
Um, through that like that waterfall that he's kind of sinking down through, like there's a lot of themes to it, this whole death and rebirth, and you can go through a lot of, if you really want to get deep, man, there's the whole baptism situation, and he's going to be reborn and all this stuff. And
Hmm.
he has that great line later about, what's your new hobby? Resurrection, and all this. I mean, but I mean, it all fits like that. Now, I mean, I don't know that I'd put Skyfall like in my top 10 of theme songs, but I do think it really works as a theme song for the movie it's in.
Yeah, I think it's actually it's a great theme song to me. It's like it's one of my favorites. Years ago on Film Feast, we did a Bond themed draft. So it was like me
I
and
remember
Keith
this.
Daniel
Yes.
Epler, and we were trying to pick our favorites, and I feel like Skyfall made it pretty high because we all agreed it was a pretty great theme song. And I think it's funny after Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, where it feels like they're trying to do something pretty different. Those are like kind of rockier theme songs, like
Yeah.
different kind of not what I think of as typical Bond themes. And this is like more moody. Again, maybe going for that classier vibe, maybe this time. I don't know. But here's the real test of how good Skyfall is. I was working at a grocery store like 2012 into 2013, and Skyfall was in the loop of grocery store songs. It was one of the only ones I wasn't absolutely sick of after months of playing it. I was like,
That is
that's a
a
sign of
test.
a good song.
Yeah.
I'm like,
You didn't have to
everything I'm
change
saying,
that much to be Muzak either. It's pretty close to it anyway. So,
it would come on. I'd be like, oh, thank God, the Skyfall song's coming on. I can't take. There were so many songs I hated. Skyfall, I really liked.
mhm.
I thought it was a great song by her. Deserved the Oscar. Glad she got that.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
The visuals are great. Classic. I mean, I always expect in those Bond themes like weird, artsy, like it's like women and guns firing, like poker chips, and like yeah, with like all kinds of.
I mean, yeah,
Great.
we've had like the almost like the animatronic or the animated Bond with all the cards, like you say, and then the Quantum was very much the more like I took it as very much like a Roger Moore entry with all the girls and the oil and all that stuff going
Oh
on, and
yeah,
then this one is much more centered on him, than
yeah.
anybody else, which is interesting. It's an interesting twist on it, and I loved it. Again, it's beautiful. It looks great. It's a great title sequence. And it leads us into the rest of the movie, as it were. And so, what did you make of the case file in this one? The idea that it's the sensitive information, and they're all worried that like that's going to get out on the black market, but that's not really Silva's bag. He just stole it. It's kind of like a cat. Like I just want to have it. I don't really want it, And so he just stole it to screw with them, and his whole thing is I just want to burn MI6 down. And I don't know, because you would almost forget that like this all starts because somebody stole a knock list, but they don't really intend to do anything with it. They just want to act like they want to do something with it to draw people out. That's a
Right.
wild twist.
It is. That's kind of back to that Joker thing again. I feel like he just wants to cause chaos, and Joker steals money. He doesn't really care about that much. He is just causing problems, and I like that it's like if forgot it's not one of the big villain end of the world Bond movies. It's
Yeah,
like
we're
a
not
small,
nuking anybody. Yeah.
not nuking anybody. We're not trying to like do anything crazy. There's not lasers or space. It's like it's just
That's right.
it's a guy who wants revenge, and it's the Noctis is like a good. I think it's just a good thing you can easily buy into of like, oh, any spy agency would never want their people to be uncovered in the field. That'd be a disaster, and
Yeah,
it's
of
like an
course. Yeah.
easy like
Well,
MacGuffin, and
well,
it's
yeah, and from Silva's point of view too, like it accomplishes two goals. One, it draws them out because he knows he'll come to
yeah,
chase him for it, so he can get him where he wants him, particularly M, who he wants to kill. But it will also embarrass them, so he doesn't want to just kill her because he can just kill her,
right, yeah,
because he clearly can just get to her. It's no, I want to ruin you, and then I want to kill you, and while I'm ruining you, I want to ruin the whole thing. I want it all gone, and that's when you kind of realize like he is completely mad, and because so it's revenge by a madman, and it's I don't know but I was talking to film strip alum Nick about this because he knew we were recording it, and he said the villain's arc it doesn't really make sense, but then it kind of does if you realize like his whole goal is to just burn it all down. And I was like, yeah,
yeah,
and I'm glad you brought it up. I hadn't really thought about it. I was like, he is the Joker. Like Silva is the Joker in a lot of ways, and I don't know that Javier Bardem thought of that or was told that, but he is cribbing hard on what Heath Ledger did in this movie. Like it's uncanny in some ways.
Right. But it's funny enough because it's different enough. I'm not sitting there going, oh God, he's just doing Heath Ledger and the Joker,
No, he's
It's
just doing
like,
his version of it, So
right. Yeah.
yeah.
So I was like, that was nice to have a smaller scale Bond movie that doesn't feel small, but the plan is smaller scale. It's very focused
Yeah.
on like, I'm just trying to get to M and to make them look bad and like just kind of make them, kind of discredit. And there's all this stuff,
Mhm.
especially in like a post 9/11 world with Bond, like terrorism, and there was
Mhm.
all talking about like we work in the shadows, and it's like, is our time up? Like we're
Right. Yeah.
all
You've got all of that where they're in front of their parliament, committee and going like, do we really need this anymore? Is this something we got to have? Which it was also the plot of another Mission Impossible movie. I think Alec Baldwin was in that one, but it's a
Mission
good one. It's a
Impossible.
good plot. It's this whole
Yeah,
idea of like, do we really have to have this anymore? And you realize like, yeah, we need it
we
twice.
need
Like, yeah. So,
Mission
but
Impossible and Bond. I think we're really sharing a lot of stuff for the past 15 plus
they
years.
really were. It's kind of scary, but not in a bad way. I think it's
Yeah, I love
produced
both of
some
them. I just
yeah, it's produced some really entertaining cinema, no doubt. But and some incredible action stuff, mostly because Tom Cruise is a crazy person. But people will let him do it, which is the wildest part. How Paramount is just like not going bankrupt insuring that man, but through the years. But I guess he and Taylor Sheridan are the only reasons they're still alive. So we'll let that go. But no, in this one, I do love that the plot is simple and it has nothing at all to do with James Bond. Like that's the thing for James Bond, for all of his gravitas as a spy and all this stuff like that. A lot of times in the Bond movies, it's like, I knew it was you, Bond, and I wanted to get to you, and all these people want to get at him. And in this one, man, Silva could give a damn who it is. Like, he doesn't care. He doesn't need him. It's all about him and it's about him and all this other stuff. And Bond is just kind of in the middle of it. And I think that's fun when they can do that in the Bond movie, where he's not the focus of it. Like I love From Russia with Love, but the one thing that kind of bugs me about that is that it's all built around him. I was like, he's got one movie and it's always all about him at this point. And I feel like it's better. Like Goldfinger's a good option where Bond just kind of gets in the way of the plot and he has to deal with it. And so I love those stories. And that's why I feel like this one sort of falls into that pile too. And in this one, you mentioned it before, GoldenEye being one of your favorites and a great entry point. And Preston and I talked about this on that episode, is that Bond just gets involved in that. It's not really about him. And in fact, the question is, do we even need him anymore? And I feel like they revisit that. It's so wild that Judi Dench is in both of those conversations.
right.
But it makes it fun. It makes it kind of cool. I mean, like I said, that attack on MI6 and all the investigation stuff, it makes it fun for him to work through and neat. And we got to talk about the Bond girl in this one, but I want to do a side mention quick of the way that they play Moneypenny in this, and that they, that whole razor scene and all that stuff. It's like, I think there's been a great will they, won't they ever for Moneypenny and Bond, and whoever it was in this film decided, no, we're going to make sure they do. And just go ahead and get that over with. But they play it off as if it's just like, okay, now that we've got that out of the way, we can work together. I thought that was genius. I really did.
You know what's so funny about this too? In hindsight, I forgot that they play Moneypenny like it's a reveal at the end.
Yeah, right.
Because I know she's Moneypenny because I've seen the movie. So I'm forgetting that like the movie played it at the end, like, surprise, it was Moneypenny. And I was like, well, I knew what it's like now I can't even, because I'm like, I know that in my head, I can't get past it. But
Mhm.
I will say they have, I feel, great chemistry. That razor scene is so tense, like so much sexual tension in that razor scene.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of sexual tension. This movie's weird. This is one of my, maybe a nitpick. I don't know. This movie, the Bond girl per thing on this movie is weird because it's almost like there's three Bond girls. It's like I would say Moneypenny, Severin, and I would say M's kind of like the Bond girl.
Yeah, it's like the Bond mom. Yeah.
Bond mom, like, because
yeah.
she's such the focus. She's the female focus who's like with him
Mhm.
the whole time. I think of Bond as like the Bond girl's like with him for most of the movie. He has to like protect her. And I feel bad. I don't think it's the actress's fault. Bernice Marlowe.
Yeah, I butchered her name totally at the beginning.
It's okay.
Yeah. I think it's Bernice Marlowe, but yeah. So
God, she is barely in this movie, barely given anything to do. She's basically used as like I feel like a prop for these two guys to fight over, and is like killed off very unceremoniously. And it's just like that. It's like Yeah, I mean,
I'll tell you though, I think they realized something is that they hit it so far out of the park with Vesper Lind and
yeah,
with Eva Green that they were like, we're never going to top that ever. No offense, Olga Kurylenko, but we're never going to touch that again because that is such a performance that she is giving, and I'm not surprised because she's an incredible actor. But so they're like, you know what? Let's get somebody mysterious and put her in like the wacky, most mysterious place ever. She's got this Chinese casino situation with it's got Komodo dragons in it, and all this stuff. And they're gonna have you talk about sultry. You have the sultriest shower scene ever, and very well placed frosted glass. In just the right places, but we're gonna have all of that, and then she's gonna have to stand out there with a shot on her head. Bond's gonna miss her, and Silva's not even gonna waste a second. He's gonna blow her away, and that's just gonna. And then she has actor to her. She has to lay like bent forward, tied up to a rock for like 5 minutes while those two guys
oh, God, I
talk.
didn't think about that.
I was like that, and then Bond has that great scene to get out of it. But I don't know, man. She's tragic. They give you a little bit of her story, like she was forced into prostitution and she's worked her way out of it, and
Right.
she really, I mean, eat your heart out of Nora. Like she's really like come a long way, and only to be offed like that, it's just so vicious. But I mean, this movie is a really sharp knife edge in a lot of ways, and
Yeah.
as soon as you get comfortable holding it, it'll cut you. And I liked her. I mean, I do feel like, oh gosh, she didn't have anything to do, but I'm like, what else was she gonna do? This movie isn't about her. It's about him.
Yeah,
You rightly called out. It's really about him. And like,
and that's why I'm kind of okay with it, because I feel like the
Yeah.
Bond girl gap is filled by like Moneypenny and M being around, and like this
Right.
Bond. I don't know what the screen time on Seven is. It's got to be like 15 minutes less.
Oh,
I mean,
at
it's like,
least.
but she
Yeah.
has a great entrance, very striking look. She's
Mhm.
beautiful, like very mysterious. And then of course they got to have a sex. I mean, not really a sex scene because they just get in the shower together. You know what happens, but
Yeah.
like they hook up and then she's gone. But it's like I think it's fine because everything else is handled by M is the focus, like, and that's
Mhm.
the part. So yeah, it's not the actor's fault. I just feel like this movie by design is like we're not gonna do the quite traditional Bond girl who's
Mhm.
around for all the adventures or gets kidnapped. Like it's going to be very quick.
Yeah.
Like she's going to be in and out of the movie real fast.
Yeah, it's not going to be Spy Who Loves Me. We're not going to have it's going to be Bond more or less on his own the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it kind of fun, but because we get through her, it's good. I think you're right though to call out that M is such the focus of this, and for it to be Judi Dench's last run as M. It's pretty wild. I mean, she made it a long time through two very different eras of
Yeah, to
James
make it through
Bond.
two eras, I feel like it's pretty good when you
Yeah.
make it like,
Yeah,
it's a
and
good
to
run.
give
Yeah.
like to give different performances in every movie,
Yeah.
like to be able to nuance them based on what the script needs. And I feel like one thing Judi Dench is great at is interlacing humor in there, just with her delivery and things. And she
Yes.
clearly is given some good humor to play with here. I love her whole like, when Bond comes back to her place or whatever, and she's like, "If you ever break into my place again, I'll have you killed." By the way, he's like, "Okay, I'll go get a hotel," and she's like, "Yeah, well, you're not going to stay here," And she walks out of the room like, "You're not sleeping here, buddy." And and the way she tells him, like, "Oh, all your stuff's put in a footlocker. You're dead. Remember? That's standard issue. You don't have any family. Remember?" And I don't know. I just loved her whole performance here. Because this movie is really about her in a lot of ways.
She's great here. It's an amazing swan song. She deserves it too for being such a great M for as long as she
Totally.
was. Like almost 20, yeah, because 95 to 2012. So yeah, I mean I'm glad it's really like she is the focus. It gets a great like last performance to go out on, because I mean she's great. I love her delivery. Like she's so funny with being like so dry and direct. I feel like he just like says things so bluntly sometimes.
Yeah.
I loved her as M. She was great. So.
And she's a blast. And then, I mean, that brings us to our villain. I mean, Silva. Well, we've talked about him. He's part Joker. He's part Neil McCauley from Heat. He's part just Javier Bardem being Javier Bardem, and I mean, this guy was a great get. I guess if you're foreign and you give a great performance in another movie, you get to be a Bond villain or something. It was kind of a trend
It's
for
your
a
reward,
while.
yeah.
But he's incredible at it, and you get to watch him, and he's just got he doesn't come onto the movie until almost an hour into it, which is
Yeah,
that's a
yeah, how
long
long it takes for
time,
him to get in there. But what an entrance when he gets there. Oh my
right?
God.
Yeah,
The
you'll
speech
never
he gives,
forget him.
the
Yeah.
rats, and like from minute one, you're like, oh, this guy's fantastic. I mean, it's Javier Bardem's a great actor anyway, but like, so the opposite of like poor Severin is like the official Bond girl of the movie, who I think is kind of forgettable if you're ranking Bond girls. I think Javier Bardem is like one of the best Bond villains. He's one of my favorite Bond villains ever because
Mm-hmm.
he he should. I mean, Javier Bardem, great performance, and just the interplay with Bond right off the bat, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about more sexual tension between
Yes.
the two of them,
And just
which
that
I
look
never.
on his face, like, oh, I'm so shocked. And just the way he plays it, it's so fey, but it's wild. It's like, I mean, you
Oh,
guys are like saying the quiet part out loud here, but
yeah,
also, yeah, that kind of checks out. Like, yeah, Bond would have been in a lot of situations, you would
right.
figure, and you just have to roll. And I love that Daniel Craig's Bond in particular. Outside of some of the Vesper stuff, and I think because of Vesper and it up until the later part of his, like at this point in his arc as a character, as we talked about, he got the full arc as a character. Is that sex to him means absolutely nothing anymore? Like he's so
Right.
broken, at this point of a person that it's just another tool. It's just like the damn gun, and what's wild is Silva's got him out there and he's this elaborate old dueling pistols, and you got to because he knows he can't shoot straight. And so
Right.
and yes, he ain't gonna shoot her anyway. And credit to her for keeping that glass on her head too when somebody shoots by you, by the way. I don't think I would be able to do that just standing there anyway, but
Yeah.
and then the fact that he's like, oh, my turn, he just blasts her. And what's wild is how he almost knows what's about to happen. He's like, he can see James Bond is about to grab his dude, shoot three others, use that guy as a shield, and he's gonna get him, and he's just waiting for him to turn it on.
Mhm.
And what's funny is that he Bond and Q have that earlier moment where they talk about like, is that all you got is a gun and a radio, and he's like, I don't do exploding pins anymore, and all that stuff, and which is a good laugh for Bond fans, but for Silva to call out like, yeah, Q branch is just garbage, or whatever, and then what defeats him? Yeah, that little radio that you said was garbage, and
Yep.
it's because those helicopters come over. That's what's wild in this too, is that we meet this guy and 20 minutes later he's in custody. And it's like,
Yeah. Oh,
oh,
well, another Dark Knight Joker parallel. It's like he
right.
wants to get caught though.
Well, yeah,
You know,
you don't know that at the time though. So it's like,
right? You don't know
wow,
that, yeah. But you're like,
yeah,
oh, I remember thinking that too. It's like, damn, they caught him really fast. What's going to happen now?
exactly. And what's going to happen is what happens in the Dark Knight. You're going to have the train wreck through the whole, situation. And his escape. Well, first off, in the little glass cage, which is also Mission Impossible has done this. So no, I feel like I'm doing Simpsons did it, but these two franchises are chasing each other at this point. So we've got him in the glass case, and when he takes out those false teeth, and he's got that disfigured face from the cyanide pill that went wrong. I just think about that, and I think about the scene in Tenet when they tell John David Washington, we rebuilt your face. I was like, yeah, because he probably looked like Silva in Skyfall after the end of that opening of that movie, and because they gave him the fake cyanide pill, which is like only half as bad, or whatever. So,
that reveal, like I saw. Now I did see Skyfall in a theater. That was a big deal. As you mentioned, $1 billion. I forgot it made over $1 billion.
Yeah.
That was wild. But I saw it in theater opening weekend. Loved it, and that reveal of the face, like, shocked people. I'm like really shocked people.
The
like,
horror movie almost, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God. Like I remember just a lot of like, you like hushed, like kind of murmurs, like what's going on? Like Jesus, like I didn't expect that. Like, I mean, it's a great reveal because that's you. I don't think you'd see that one coming.
No, and you realize that's when you realize like, oh, he wanted to get caught. Oh
Yeah.
shit,
Yeah.
what's about to happen, right? And then
Mhm.
Bond's the one that's like, wait a minute. And how's it happen? Because the smart Q branch guy who's all into cybersecurity gets hacked by the better guy at cybersecurity, just a little bit lesson, kids. Don't pick up strange USB drives and plug them into your computer at work. Because this is what he does. I was like, oh, that's that. We all knew that was bad. Q, what are you doing? But it's a great end, right? Because you don't realize what's happening. It's like when all those assassinations go down in Dark Knight. You're like, oh shit. And you realize like, oh, there's somebody else pulling this off. And that leads us to like Henchman. Patrice is kind of forgettable, except for the
Mhm.
fact that he's the reason that half of the third act even happens. Like you realize like, oh, it's a smart henchman. He's like behind all the things, and I don't know, man. I found Patrice to be a very formidable henchman for Skyfall. I was
Yeah.
impressed.
I forgot about him until I was watching the movie again. And I thought,
Hmm.
oh, this guy's, I had forgot, like, because he's not Jaws, he's not Odd Job, he's
He
not,
just looks like
he
a
doesn't have,
dude.
yeah, he
Yeah.
doesn't have like a gimmick. He's just like a dude. And like, he doesn't have anything crazy going on, but he seems like super intense and like the
Hmm.
Bond's like equal almost. Like he's like a match, like a match for him.
Yeah.
So he's really good. And it just, you're not going to remember him as much because he doesn't have like some big gimmick. It's like
No,
he's just,
he's just a guy who's a
yeah.
really skilled killer and is a really ruthless assassin. And he's totally bought in. So you got to figure like, was this an asset that Silva worked with somewhere along the way? And he decided, I'm going to keep this guy alive because he might be useful, down the
Oh
line.
yeah,
We don't really
true.
know, and that's what makes him fun is that you don't have to know. And so one thing modern movies, Matt Spalding and I were talking about this offline, and the thing that like, there's so much like, unraveling of everything, like too much behind the scenes in some ways, and it's
Hmm.
kind of ruined the mystery of films in some way. And
Yeah.
I think it's better for us to sit around and kind of make up like, what do you think this guy's backstory was? And I mean that's the fun part is too much. It's like there's no mystery in it, right? It's that
That's
that's
true. I'd rather fill in the gaps myself than a movie sit there and over explain to me for
yeah, I mean, it's one of the problems with the Rob Zombie Halloween reboot. It's like now there's like too many reasons, it's like the Spy Kid beat down was too far, like
yeah.
but it's like okay, there's too many reasons here and stuff, and they almost do that with Bond here too, though, with his whole background and his, Skyfall and all this stuff, and they explain it, but they don't, and then
Hmm.
there's his parents in the graveyard and everything. And I remember at the time there was like this internet theory running around that like they're going to reveal in this movie that James Bond is just a moniker and that it's just
Oh
given
God, I
to an
forgot
agent,
about.
and at the time
Oh
I was like, that's brilliant. I love that. And the fact that they absolutely don't. I was like, oh, okay, I guess not. I was like, well, whatever. It doesn't matter. Each Bond is its own story. But
yeah.
in one way, I was like, I don't know, that kind of would have been cooler if it was. It's almost
I don't.
like, yeah.
I remember. I forgot about till you mentioned. I forgot that was a theory, and I don't know where that even came from. But it
I
definitely
saw it
wasn't.
on Cracked. I mean,
No,
but who
people were
knows,
saying that. I don't remember
Yeah.
where they were getting this idea from, but I remember hating that. I was like, no. I was like, the 007's already like the moniker that gets passed around. Like James Bond's
Right.
the guy. Like I
Yeah.
was like, please don't. I didn't want any part of that. I was glad they didn't go
Hmm.
that way. Like there was so many theories about like I think this one about what was going to happen, what were they going to reveal? Like I think because those rumors started about Sean Connery being in it.
Yeah.
I I think those rumors came out before anyone knew what he would be doing. I can't remember. It's all been so long ago,
It's
but
he was
but
supposed to be like the rumor was he was going to be in the Albert Finney role, and that the idea of
right,
like
right.
retired Bonds would just all get together, and I was like, that's no, we don't need to do that. Like,
Yeah. See, I remember it as like there was some rumor that he was going to be in it, but no one knew what he was going to be doing. But then when you saw the movie, you're like, oh, he definitely would have been the Albert Finney role.
yeah,
But then I not to like jump around too much on you, but that's a big moment where I feel like at the time I was disappointed it wasn't Sean Connery. Now I watch it and go, God, that would have been so distracting.
it would have been, yeah. And I think that's exactly right. And I don't know if those conversations ever really happened or not. Who knows? At this point, I think Connery was very
I
much done.
Yeah, I read
And
up on it, and it sounds like it was definitely stuff they talked about, but it never got too far. And I don't know if he was even on board, so who knows if they even gone to him. Like,
yeah,
I
the
mean,
way he
this,
talked about it, like this and everything, I don't think he would have done it. Honestly, I think he would have said,
yeah,
"Nah," like he's like, yeah, it's not really what we do with this.
I,
But
yeah, I did, but I did think the Welcome to Scotland line would have really killed if
oh, it would have been awesome
Connery
if he
had
did it.
delivered
Yeah.
that line.
But on that note, Albert Finney kills in this and is
Oh,
great.
he is
Yeah,
great. I was thinking
and
he's really great. I'm glad it
the
was him. He's great without being distracting. Like I love Sean Connery,
yeah,
would have, but it would have been it would take you out of the movie because then you're going,
yeah.
well, it's the original James Bond.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like, yeah, it's too many. It's too much. Like, yeah,
It's
we
too
can't,
much. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we can't have all the Batman at the same time. And oh, it's okay. The third Spider-Man Tom Holland movie where all of them are there. Like that's fun, but it's also incredibly distracting for a little bit. And it's like,
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, I know y'all had to do the meme. That's funny. I laughed at that too. At least Andrew Garfield finally got some come up because he was a really good Spider-Man, and that just
Yeah, talk about
Sony.
a good guy in the role who was stuck in bad movies. Andrew
Boy, yeah,
Garfield,
he got
Spider.
screwed in those
God,
two.
that poor
Yeah,
guy. I thought he was so
yeah,
good, and he was in some pretty
he
crappy
was. He was in some
movies.
bad ones. He was. But it would have felt like that. It would have been like that's a little too cheap. Like I don't really love
Yeah,
that. And it's,
yeah.
um, I. I like that Albert Finney's what he is, and I love how they just destroy that house. The Aston Martin's
Yeah.
hiding in the wall and just shooting the hell out of it. I mean, it's a great raid, man. That's a hell of a raid at the end of that movie. And we talk about like this is a seriously lack of gadget movie at all. The
Oh
gadgets
yeah.
almost like the locations. We talked about there's the gun with the handprint on it, which that only plays in when the guy tries to shoot him and then the Komodo dragon eats him. So that gun's gone. Oh, good Walther PPK will run you about a grand and a half. And with that tech on it, it's probably about 3,000. That's gone in like 4 minutes. So I don't think he ever shoots it.
Oh yeah.
And
No, I forgot he didn't get it back.
yeah, I was
So
like, he never gets it back. I was like, oh, that was cool I mean, but you obviously they set that up for that reason. So he would lose it, somebody grab it, and he's like, good luck with that. And then again,
yeah.
ancient dinosaur eats the big man. And he uses the other one like Pitfall. If you remember that old Atari game, he jumps up to
Oh
get out
yeah.
of there.
Yeah.
But he gets a good money penny scene. She's able to whack somebody with a briefcase and stuff. But really, to me, the travel log are the gadgets in this. We talked about the opening in Istanbul, Turkey. And then we're in Shanghai, we're in Macau, there's all around London, and then we go to the Scottish Highlands. That's really the gadget, is that the house is rigged for, hardwired for self-destruction, if you
It
will.
becomes like Home Alone at the end. It
It
becomes
does. It becomes Nightmare on Elm Street, Home Alone. You pick, your home invasion movie of choice. But yeah, I mean, that's what, and I love how that all goes down. That they just set all that up, and I mean, that's a great finale too, man. It's a hell of a shootout, and I love how when Bond is out on that ice lake or whatever, and the guy's got him dead to rights, and Silva's like, say something quippy or whatever. He's like, nope, and he just grabs the dude's gun. So you can sink
yeah.
down there, and that's how he gets away. I was like, whoa, that's bold, but that's one thing about Craig though, man, is like he will like, oh, you don't want me to hit my face in the glass? Fine, I'll do it twice. It's like very ECW of him.
Yes, I appreciate that reference. Yeah. I almost used a reference earlier about like the henchman, where I'm like, 'cause I think we're both wrestling fans. It's like,
Oh yeah,
it's like a really good worker without a big gimmick, so people forget
yes.
about it. Like,
Yeah, it's like you don't remember him till you watch him, and you're like, damn, Terry Funk's good. His gimmick
Dean
is.
Malenko was a really good wrestler, but he
Yeah,
was just very.
that's a great one. He's Dean Malenko. He's Ken Shamrock. He's one
Meanwhile,
of
other guys are like Ultimate Warrior, and guys who are like big, colorful peacock and type of guys, and not
Mhm.
and,
And
but
then he's
yeah,
just, well, you know what? In the midst he's just Ron Simmons. He's just this force. He just goes forward. That's great. No, that's a great reference. He doesn't have a great gimmick, but he's over enough that you can use him. So
Craig is like, you just mentioned like one of the most, maybe the most physical Bond, and he was kind of allowed to be the most like physical,
mhm.
like the way he moves and like the way he's just so vicious. Like it's
Yeah,
just he's just in a different realm of like of just the violence and stuff.
yeah,
It's just he feels like a Bond that is very angry and violent, and
yeah.
just will mess people up, and he will get hurt to get to people. He doesn't care about hurting himself, which they touch on. I think it's interesting in this movie that it's like he's getting really beat up. The physical test he can't pass earlier in the movie, and it's like he's got shards of bullets in him, and he's all and all this stuff, and he's beat up, and he's got alcohol problems, and it's like been through the ringer. And usually Bond is like for years been, oh, he's superhuman. From one movie to the next, it's like, oh, I'm fine, I'm refreshed, I don't get shot, I'm like whatever. And
Yeah.
this time it's like the physical toll it's taken on Bond is talked about, which I thought was interesting.
Oh, it is. I feel like there's another 2006 film that this is a little bit too on that realm, and that's Rocky Balboa, where
Oh yeah.
where Rocky is mostly worthless as an athlete anymore, except that he has unreal stamina and he can get really strong because he can still hit like a ton of bricks. So what is it that the trainer says? Let's just build some hurting bombs. You ain't got no
Yeah.
you ain't got no speed, you got arthritis, and you old. So, and that's Bond. Is like he's not fast. He can't shoot worth the damn anymore, but he can think faster than everybody, and he's
Mhm.
willing to take the punishment. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
he's stone cold, to keep you with the wrestling thing. You can cut me all you want. I'm still going to keep coming. And that's what's great about him. And I love that, Silva just walks away, and I love his last bit with M there in the chapel, you know, where he's telling her, like, you got to do it. And he puts her head next to his. She's got the gun. And
Mm-hmm.
for a minute there, the way Judi Dench plays it, you're like, she's going to pull the trigger. Like, she's
Yeah,
going
I
to do
thought
it,
I thought that this time, and I've seen the movie, and I thought, no, wait, she doesn't pull the trigger, but it sure seems like she's about to pull the trigger. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's intense. Yeah,
It's dark and intense,
yeah,
but then you hear that thwack, where that big knife is thrown into him. And I love that. I love Craig's like last rat standing, just to get that line back to him. And Silva just looks at him like, you son of a bitch, and he falls over. But it's almost like a look of respect too, like, you're right, but that dog, God, it's such an intense scene at the end, and
yeah.
but I like the fact that Bond, a lot of times the Bond villain gets thwarted by his own stupidity or by somebody else or whatever. It's always way more satisfying to me when Bond just does it himself. It's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm just gonna shoot you, or I'm gonna stab you or throw you off a bridge or whatever, and it's not by accident or anything, and there's no quip to it. That's not a quip at the end. That's a payoff to a story that got
Yeah.
told earlier. So that's good script. And
Yeah. One of the rare Bond movies where the villain actually kind of succeeds in his goal because he wanted to kill M. M's dead. And I mean, who knows which gunfire guy, I can't remember which, all the gunfire that's going off, what got her, but something got her. So he kind of won. I mean, he died, but he technically pulled off the villain plan, which I can't think of many times.
He did, but he didn't too, because MI6 is not only restored, but now it's got full funding. It's stronger. They
Well,
put
that's true. That
Mallory
part
in
he did.
charge. They
Yeah.
found somebody else. Like, it's time to move on, and that's the hard thing too. It's somebody that's older that I'm gonna have to work till I'm dead anyway, because that's the economy and world we live in nowadays. But I know I'm at a point where I'm not gonna be in leadership positions that much longer in my career, maybe another 10, 15 years or so, because at some point you just don't have the fastball anymore. It's just that's part of it. And I joke with an old friend of mine's a boss, like, I just want to get to a point where I can just take a job as just like an advisor. I just go in and I just work my 40 and I just go home and I don't think about it anymore. And I don't take this stuff home with me. I have to plan it out 6 semesters in advance, all that stuff. And I feel like that's where this M was. She was at the point where she didn't want to admit that, but she needed to. And
Yeah.
Silva kind of called her out on it and then forced it. And Mallory's the perfect one for it. And what a stroke of genius to get Ray Fiennes as that. I mean, talk about a guy that's fallen into incredible roles his entire career. But that was like, well, that's just casting on the nose. Like, obviously, it's going to be him, right?
Yeah, and he's a great M. When they revealed they're replacing him as the new M, I was like, well, I'm fine with that. I was like,
Yeah, exactly.
Judi Dench, but I'm like, perfect replacement. I'm good with that. So yeah, he's always good. I feel like most time he's good. I don't know if he always, but he's always a really good actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like he has not always been in great movies, but I don't think he gives a bad performance. He shows up to do what he does, and
Yeah.
that's why you watch him and stuff. Nowadays, like, it's 2025. He was just in Conclave, which is kind of a low rent Dan Brown knockoff, kind of a thing. Anyway, no offense.
Yeah, I didn't love it, but I thought he was good in it. That movie.
But he's, I was gonna say, like, that movie's not that great, but him, Stanley Tucci, and John Lithgow are great in it.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, well, it's worth it for that. If you can get those three people. It's like Edward Norton used to talk about that movie he was in. It's some version of like Heist or The Heist or whatever. He said that movie's garbage. He said, but me and De Niro and Brando give performances, man. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, the score. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Heist, I think it's the Gene Hackman one with Danny DeVito,
Yes,
which is terrible use of both great actors. But the score's not any good, but it's good to watch the three of them go at each other, and so it's fun for that, and so you're like, okay, well, you knew it was a piece of crap, but you gave a performance. So I give you credit for trying. Like that to me says a lot. Like, I think that's good. And I love how it ends too, where M and him are kind of quipping a little bit or whatever, and he's like, are you ready to get back to work? And he throws that top secret file on the desk, and you're like, yeah. And then it cuts right to Craig walking out to the gun barrel sequence, because we didn't get that the
Right.
beginning.
It's
Now we get the gun barrel with Craig. He shoots it, and it's like 50 years of James Bond. I was like, that was nice. Like, it's a really satisfying wrap up to this big, huge movie.
yeah, because I kind of forgot. Oh, they did the gun barrel thing, and then they nailed it at the end. And then it's like, I think the 50 Years of Bond thing. When does that come up? Beginning or the
That
end?
comes out right there at the end. Yeah, right there before
Okay,
they
yeah.
run
So
the credits. Yeah,
it's like yes, Bond, you leave
yeah,
on a high note too. So
exactly.
yeah,
And a high note to we don't know where because years ago they got out of the whole James Bond will return in because they kept changing the next movie around. So
oh
like, no,
yeah,
James will return. We just don't know in what.
we don't know what
We
it's gonna be
have,
called or when it's gonna
we don't
happen.
know anything about it. We have no ideas beyond this, except we're going. We want Sam and Daniel back. And I don't think Craig was signed at that point too. I think it was like, oh, okay, do we have him or not? It was kind of an Iron Man 3 situation. Like, I don't
Oh
know, do we
yeah,
get him or not? And obviously they would, but yeah, they had to figure out what to do. And so I thought it was a neat way to wrap it up, And so
yeah.
that's a good point to get to the final thoughts here on Skyfall, Matt. So kind of your final thoughts on Skyfall and sort of where it lives in. You don't have to rank it necessarily now, but sort of where it lives in the Bond pantheon for you.
Uh, so yeah, funny thing about watching Skyfall again, it's been a little bit. It's kind of a weird Bond movie from what I think of as a prototypical Bond movie because it does a lot of kind of things that break away, like killing M and like having a situation where it ends with the villain's kind of playing a small scale. It ends just at a house. It doesn't end like on a satellite dish or like an underwater lake.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's got, I scared to invoke the name, but it almost has some Last Jedi-ish type stuff before Last Jedi did stuff.
Mm.
I'm surprised people weren't complaining more about stuff they were doing that was kind of like breaking from Bond tradition and this like Bond getting hurt and being vulnerable and the M stuff and, like killing, So it's a weird Bond movie. I get it. The Bond girl thing is weird in the middle where she kind of comes and goes real quick. But it's got to be in my top five, maybe top three. Sometimes I say it's my favorite Bond movie. It's very hard to rank Bond movies because I have come to find like it depends on what mood I'm in.
Yeah. They're
Like
all a different mood. You're right about that.
it's like sometimes I say this is my favorite, but then I have so much fondness for GoldenEye that it's like and Casino Royale's amazing, and and then Goldfinger. It's like, but then you're like different eras. It's almost like I have to pick a favorite from each era. It's like of Bond. So love Skyfall. It is kind of an odd Bond movie. I can understand. I saw people who were critical. A lot of people love Skyfall. It did very well, but I've seen people who are critical of it because they don't really, I think, like it as a Bond movie. I kind of get that. It's like maybe not one you'd return to over and over again because they're really trying to be grounded. The whole the whole thing about the gun and the radio is very much, I feel like them trying to be like we're grounded now. Like this is real and I liked it at the time. I don't love it as much now. I don't have a problem with it, but I will say this. I'm kind of hoping God knows what's going to happen to this franchise now after what
Right.
happened with
Right.
Amazon. But my hope was like, okay, cool. We did the Craig thing. He had a great arc. It was gritty. It was more realistic. I'd like to go back to a little bit more of like fun, jokier Bond. Not like Roger Moore. Sorry, I'm not a Roger Moore guy, but like I want like a little more. I want more gadgets. I want
Mhm.
like kind of over the top villain stuff. Like I kind of want us to get back a little bit more to that, push a little more in that direction. I don't want to go like over the top with it, but like I think we've done gritty, grounded Bond now, and we've done it like perfectly. Don't even try to recreate it. Get a Bond that's like a younger guy too. Let's start younger. I don't want like James Bond Jr., but I want like a guy maybe in his like early 30s and like let's get back to a little more like fun, loose Bond, like
Yeah.
that's kind of my thing for this. But a Skyfall, I think, is like, I mean, just great movie making, great Craig performance, like great. It's just, it felt like they put so much into this one after what a horrible time they had on Quantum of Solace. They were
Oh
like,
yeah.
let's kill it on Skyfall, guys. And they think they did. It is definitely like top tier Bond movie for me. On any day you ask me, it might be my favorite. It's very hard to say, but I love it. I think it's fantastic. So.
Well, Matt, that's a great way to say it. And I don't disagree with much of what you said there at all because it's one that leaves you with an impression for sure. And I'm with you. I'm curious to see where this next era of Bond goes. We'll talk a little bit about that on the session show, but I'm with you. I kind of want that. I think that the Bond you're looking for is the Pierce Brosnan Bond, the strike of the in between, the intensity of Timothy Dalton and Sean Connery and Craig, but with the fun of Roger Moore, and without being goofy, and so how do we get to there?
Yeah.
I don't know. The people in charge of it, I don't know that they know that either. We're going to find out, but or maybe we won't. I don't know. But 'cause you never know when these exchange hands like this. But as far as this goes, Skyfall is one of those movies that I respect a lot. I think it's an incredible movie just by itself, even though I do think it's derivative from two other really good movies. But that's not a bad thing because, play the hits, I mean, it works. I think it works in a lot of ways. It's one though that I have to be in the right mode to watch because it asks a lot of you because it's dark and it's heavy, in a lot of ways. Like, I think in some ways in more recent years, I've really gravitated toward those Mission Impossible movies, really since the fourth one on, because I felt like they had like stakes and stuff, but they were also just fun. They just wanted to be fun. It's like the Fast and Furious movies. After the third one, they became like, I don't know, international spy heist movies or something. But they're fun. They're fun as hell, and they're dumb, but they're fun. When anytime I see that Rock like redirect a torpedo at somebody, okay, I know but I went there for that. I want that, and I don't know that Bond can ever be in that place, but it's fun to think about where it'll go. But boy, what a market left, and then he got 2 more movies out of it. Craig did, and I'm not a fan of either of them, honestly. I've in my head, I'm like, it's kind of like the way I feel about Buffy. Like, there's parts of season 6 and 7 that I like and will always watch and treasure. But for me, it kind of ended in season 5. And for me with Daniel Craig, it kind of ended at Skyfall. Like everything after that is sort of like, well, you put out a new album so you can play the hits off this one again, and that's okay. I'll respect that. You got to do what you got to do. But it's an incredible experience and has been a real blast talking about it with you as always and with all the fellas here on Double O Film Strip. So Matt, tell folks how they can follow you. And I know you say Film Feast is more or less retired at this point, but tell folks about the show and what all they can expect if they go check it out.
Oh yeah, so it's still active. You can still find it. I have kept paying for the hosting fee because I don't want it to go away because I didn't back it up, so I have to keep it up there. So as long as I keep paying, it'll be wherever you can find podcasts. I think it's basically any platform we're covered on, just Film Feast podcast. We got to like 180-ish episodes. Awesome. The count got thrown off, but I'm proud of that run. 4 years and 180 episodes ish, 170, 180. So I'm happy with that. So still out there. It's still a huge back catalog to go through. So but yeah, I'm still on social media myself as just at Matt Bled 87. That's on Twitter and Blue Sky and Letterboxd. I have that handle. I'm on Instagram too. It's just at Film Feast. Where I just kind of post just random pictures of movies usually, but I'm still out there, still talking to the gang, all the podcasting people that I talk to. So just talk about movies basically. That's about all you're going to get from me. I don't usually go out that realm too much. So yeah, that's it.
Well, fair enough. And again, I highly encourage folks, check out the Film Feast podcast. I had a chance to be on a couple of those, and it's always something great to listen to. It was going to be a really engaging discussion, no matter who you had on, and it was fun. It was people who like movies that want to talk about movies, and you can get real, geeked out about cinematography and writing and stuff, or you could just really enjoy just talking about, these are the 3 new things I just found, and I didn't know what these were. And I discovered so many things from those shows that y'all did. Like, these are my new discoveries for the year, and I was like, man, I gotta watch a lot of stuff now. I can't. I'm behind. I feel like, but it really is a film education in a lot of ways, and a movie education. And I highly recommend folks check it out. And I'm glad you were able to come on and be a part of this. And more fun to come in the future. Obviously, we'll link that stuff in the show description. But folks, as always, thanks for listening to this special edition of Film Strip called Double O Film Strip. You can always find our show, Film Strip Podcast, wherever you find your podcasts, and you can follow the show on social media at Film Strip Pod, wherever you find us. If you will, leave us a positive review, share it on your socials. We appreciate that. And until next time, thank you for listening to Double O Film Strip.
Thank you for listening to Film Strip. You can find more episodes on our website, filmstrippodcast.com. The Film Strip theme music is produced and performed by Frozen Lake 121. All content used or discussed in these podcast episodes is the property of the respective owners and used under the Fair Use Act, Section 504, C2, Title 17.